Spicy question.
Hey guys, welcome back to Muslim Minds. We're going to be reacting to a Jubilee video, and the title is Do All Muslims Think the Same? So, do all Muslims think the same? I guess we'll find out. Or here.
They don't.
Believing men and believing women. Same level.
No, disagreed. I have in the court of law, the Quran explicitly states two female witnesses carry the weight of one male, and that's why I stood over there.
Out of my guy's arm.
One of them probably broke his arm.
I wish I was there with you guys. Like, it's honestly, it just gets really hard. Like, it's just 5 times a day. It's like spread throughout the day. We all live like young professional lives.
Him saying it's very hard can make sense to someone who doesn't have a routine of doing it. Lots of very simple things can be hard if you're not used to doing it. But I would say if you build the habit or put your foot forward of praying 5 times a day, it's really not hard. For those who don't know, the amount of time it takes to actually complete all 5 prayers, if you just do the bare minimum, is about 20 minutes of your whole day. So it's really 20 minutes total. All the 5 prayers, the time will equal 20 minutes.
It'll basically be like literally 4 or 5 minutes, 5 times a day, spread out like 3 or 4 hour blocks. So just imagine you probably spend 3 or 4 minutes on Instagram or social media like every hour. So
it's honestly one of the
it's okay. It is hard for some people, and it is a trial, but it's not too difficult.
Yeah, it's still I would say one of the bare minimum things you're supposed to do. It also shows, like, if you're not really making the effort to do it, it may show kind of maybe an ignorance of the faith, because it is a very core part of Islam. And if you don't do it, some schools of thoughts and scholars even believe if you purposefully neglect the prayer, then you are outside the fold of Islam.
It gets kind of in the way. If I could quantify it, I'm averaging about 3 out of 5 prayers. I think I will find myself in prayer more when I'm in desperation. It's not something that's subjective. I know we should be all praying as a requirement.
I just want to say it takes a lot of guts to be honest and say that. I honestly believe that if you feel it in your heart that you have a strong relationship with God, God will have mercy on you with whatever you're dealing with. So
being on this line doesn't mean it's like a piece of cake to do the 5 daily prayers. It is a struggle. It's a challenge. I was working in a corporate environment where I could not comfortably find a space, so I'd have to go pray in the car or in the parking lot. So it is a challenge, but yeah.
Islam promotes violence. 3, 2, 1.
What? Contrarian.
We're not allowed to cut down trees during war. We're not allowed to hurt children and mothers. We're not allowed to hurt our own prisoners. And when people associate...
I would agree, obviously, strongly disagree, because Islam doesn't promote violence. It makes exceptions. Like, you're allowed to use violence, and for example, I guess you could say,
if you're defending in war, you're allowed to use violence. If someone attacks you, you're allowed to attack back. We're not just we don't just willfully let people do whatever they want with us and be taken advantage of. Like, if someone attacks us as Muslims, we are allowed to retaliate, but the best thing is actually to be merciful and show mercy. That's what it says in the Quran. So obviously I would strongly disagree as well.
But even in Islam, regarding the laws as well, there are some punishments where the perpetrator gets physically disciplined. I would say in those areas, obviously it's allowed, but it's not like the norm or baseline that one should be striving for kind of like violence. It's an exception. It's a rule that has a time and a place.
See, terrorism, something so disgusting with Islam, it hurts me because ISIS targets Muslims more than they target anybody else. And in the age of Google, there's no excuse. Like, if you don't know that Islam means peace, Islam means surrender, being a Muslim is one who submits their will to God, how is that violent? Like, at the end of the day, I feel like media is the one that has that hand and that stronghold causing folks to be that way or think that way.
I guess I literally listened to the prompts. Does Islam promote violence? And I'm only speaking not from my personal perspective, but just from trying to understand how discussions about this religion can be used to defame it, to justify terrorism per se. When somebody says, and for the record, kill a non-believer, let's acknowledge that sentence. And if we're going to reach a conclusion and a solution with somebody who does think this way of us and our faith, we need to understand their argument thoroughly.
I disagree.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean Islam is promoting violence. That means a human being is abusing Islam to promote their own violence.
Yeah,
Islam is an ideology.
For stuff like that, it's basically taking it out of context, because in those situations, it's when you're literally defending yourself or going to war. You're allowed to kill people. Every country does that when they go to war. So if Islam doesn't promote violence. It's saying there's a time and place for it. So just because someone comes up to you and says that doesn't mean you agree it promotes it. I think this guy is a little bit wrong.
A lot of people also like to quote the verse in the Quran where it says, kill them wherever you find them. But verses like this in the Quran and other verses where it's talking about violence against another group is typically in context of a treaty that has been broken, or you have enemies or people that want to wipe you out. Then obviously if you come across these enemies or they intend harm for you and they want to engage in battle, then you're allowed to engage in battle back. But if you just read the next couple of verses, it always says, but if they desist, if they stop, if they make peace with you, then it's better for you to make peace with them and not continue fighting. Mm-hmm. And we'll leave the sources in the comments for that.
I agree with what you just said. I really do, because I read the Quran every day as a practice. And not once in 2019 have I yet gotten to a verse about violence. All of them about mercy of God, turn to God, God is with you. To me, that's an emotional connection.
Okay, I understand.
That is an emotional connection to my Creator.
Sure.
And I'm not going to allow anybody to take that away.
I'll take the statement that you did, kill the non-believers. At the time of the Holy Prophet, the Muslims were in danger. They were the minority, right?
That's what I'm saying.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that because we are in danger that whenever there's a non-believer, we kill them.
No.
What non-believer refers to are like the Meccans, or like the people that were actively going against Muslims and trying to harm us and stuff.
And I wanted this healthy discourse.
Yes, and
because I dwell upon that other perspective. I didn't grow up proud of those verses because I didn't understand them.
Yeah,
but now that I do have full understanding, I know that it's important to keep not a one-dimensional perspective, but not even accept the others, but thoroughly understand it.
Hijab should be mandatory. 3, 2, 1.
Well, it is obligatory Islamically. It's not about should.
I have strong feelings. I just feel like it's a woman's right to cover if she wants to. And to tell a woman what to do with her body is totally against our Islamic principles. So,
being a guy here, I just made a really conscious decision.
Well, the issue about that is Allah is the one who's saying it's obligatory, the one who has the right to tell you to do anything.
Yeah, so we believe obviously it's obligatory, but if someone doesn't want to do it,
you can't abuse them into doing it.
Because in Islam, I believe in Surah Ma'idah, or if I'm wrong, we'll leave it in the comments. There's no compulsion in religion, so something may be mandatory. But if you don't do it, that's between you. That's your decision. And wearing the hijab is not the most important thing. There's plenty. Wearing hijab doesn't automatically make you a good Muslim. You can wear hijab for a man or a woman. There's different, clothing requirements. You can be a horrible person, or you cannot wear hijab and be better than both of us, better than everyone. But yeah, from our understanding, hijab is mandatory.
Islamic law has varying levels. When it comes to hijab, you can't compare it to someone like stealing or causing some kind of public issue or stirring up the society or whatever it is. If someone is not wearing hijab, they are breaking a commandment of Allah that's very clear on modest clothing. Men have a hijab, women have a hijab. If you're not adhering to that, then you're breaking a commandment from Allah. But to get to the point where someone is physically, reprimanded or verbally abused and looked down upon and kind of made to feel humiliated to the degree where it becomes abuse, that's not allowed.
Yeah,
you can't.
But obviously, it might be harder for women. We don't know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not saying that it's easy, especially in today's day and age. I can understand how a woman in the West, I can understand how it's hard to adopt something like that. I can understand, but it doesn't mean that it's not obligatory.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So.
Like somewhat agree because people don't understand that hijab is like a concept as far as like it's not just like the actual headscarf. Islam really promotes the idea of modesty, and that's how you get closer to God. And if you feel like having a headscarf is a way for you to get closer to God, then so be it.
100% agree with that because it's not just a headscarf, it's a behavior, it's a personality, it's how you treat your friends and your neighbors. Yeah, for a lot of people, the process is build my courage, my bravery, and my confidence, and then wear the scarf. For me, it was kind of reversed. I started with the scarf because I knew that I was not going to build that bravery unless I started wearing it. Because when you put it on, you start acting different. You start acting nicer, you're kinder. Because now you're representing your religion, your faith.
You make me think really deep about that because I've been struggling. I wore it when I was about 15. I tried it out. But it's been a struggle because internally I want to be a better Muslimah that I'm going to represent to society before my outer side represents Islam.
I face discrimination for my religion. 3, 2, 1.
Contrarian.
Just wants to disagree with everything.
So I'm not a traditional Muslim female. I don't wear the scarf. When I was younger, I'd be walking home from the masjid with my mom. She wears the hijab. This was before September 11th even happening. She would get teenagers in cars driving by, spitting on us, cursing at us. She would always say, just brush it off.
When you show that you're a Muslim in any way, people kind of like you get those glances every so often. But what happened was that after like all this like election things happened, it's funny, people who you grew up with, people who you knew your entire lives are kind of looking at you a little differently. You know, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, wait a second, like, you know me. I didn't think this would be an issue, you know?
I personally have not experienced explicit discrimination. I conveniently can shave my beard and try to compensate almost, and it's sad to admit, but I know it's not my job to create a comfort space for another person. However, I would say that if you do guys confront it explicitly, try to think of it as an opportunity to teach as opposed to reacting with emotion.
I think it also depends on what the encounter is. Like, I had a beer bottle thrown at me after 9/11. I'm not going to go confront that person and be like, hey, let's build bridges.
Right.
Like, it's not, no. But if there's someone who's got a little bit of an attitude or, misconception, I'll work on that.
I think that guy kind of misunderstood because everyone, if you're a Muslim, especially in a Western country, you have faced discrimination. Usually a lot of us have faced it directly, and even if you face it indirectly with media, the news, people like being insulting to us, that is discrimination.
Or at the very least,
Yeah.
misunderstanding who we are
Yeah.
or what Islam or teaches.
But yeah, I agree with what that girl was saying. If someone is being overly rude to you, you're not just gonna like turn the other cheek and be peaceful.
Yeah, have a
Like if someone's
discourse with them.
throwing a beer bottle or yelling at you, you have to like
Defend yourself.
you have to defend yourself. And the other guy said he would like shave his beard to create a safe space for other people. Like we shouldn't be ashamed to be Muslim. And it is something like if you go to work, if you're in a public place, just the idea of praying in public, you're scared of if anything that might happen to you. So just even the idea kind of scares you sometimes, if you're not used to it at least.
Or makes you uncomfortable, yeah.
Yeah.
Are equal to men. 3, 2, 1.
He's back at it again.
Change mine. I had to think about it.
So the reason I still don't agree and not strongly agree is that my
I'm
understanding of human beings is that that women and men in general have different roles. You know, men cannot bear children, women do. In Islam, there's no discriminatory thing. There's nothing that a man can do that a woman cannot.
And I don't have to prove otherwise except to cite in the Quran when Allah addresses us believing men and believing women. Same level.
No, disagree.
Same level. I read the Quran.
verbatim.
So you can't tell me.
This in the court of law, the
No.
Quran explicitly states
I'm
two
sorry.
female witnesses carry the weight of
sorry.
one male, and
I'm
that's why I
sorry.
stood over there. I personally feel, and if it were up to me, it would be 50-50. There is no discrimination on my personal bias, but
Well, why are
I'm
you
again-
standing there?
I'm acknowledging that the Quran prescribes something here.
But well, here's the thing I would like to say. This doesn't mean they're not equal in the sight of Allah. Like the only way to become, I guess you could say, more valuable in the sight of God is through your good deeds. But these
Yeah.
different roles and qualities and traits of men and women doesn't make one inherently better than the other. So, for example, in the Quran, it says that men are the protectors and maintainers of women. That doesn't mean they are necessarily better than women. It means that they have a different role. They have a responsibility, an obligation.
It's harder for us because we have to take care of women.
Yeah.
We have to provide for
We will
them.
be held accountable.
We have to lay down our lives for them.
Yeah.
So, men and women in the eyes of God are the same. And even in the hadith, Jannah's beneath the feet of your mother.
Yeah.
Your mother's the one that literally like went through, being pregnant with you, and to be good to your mom. That's where you
more virtuous than serving your
Yeah.
father. There's an emphasis on your mother more than your father.
Yeah, loving your mother.
There's an
more.
emphasis on treating women right. There's an emphasis on your daughter's emphasis on your wives.
But obviously, in certain situations, like in a court of law, the opinion of a man might be more valuable. Yeah. But there's times and places for different things. It doesn't mean one gender is better or men are just can do whatever they want. Yeah. That's like a very, what's it called? Stereotype.
It's a narrow way of looking at it.
Right.
Right?
No. In Islam, we do get equal opportunities. Scientifically, no, we're not equal. Because men can do things physically that we can't do. Women can do things that men can't do.
See, this is another truth. Like, biologically, we're different. That doesn't make me better as a person than a woman. It might make me better in lifting or whatever it is, maybe some kind of physical activity, just for as an example. But it doesn't mean that I'm above her, superior to her in a kind of moral or righteousness type of sense.
Yeah.
My question would be, what aspect are we discussing?
Sure, personal belief versus Islamic belief versus societal belief. That's two different things. If I'm saying personally, I believe women can be greater than men. I believe women have...
Islam says that.
However,
Islam promotes that completely, yeah.
You can be Muslim and part of the LGBT community.
Spicy question.
2, 1.
Stand here just to be on the safe side.
I'm a contradictory human being. I pray with one hand and commit sin with the other. So I'm not in a position to be able to
This guy's funny.
tell somebody that they're excluded from a whole faith if perhaps their faith in God is stronger than mine.
Okay, so you can be anything and be a Muslim, but I guess the reason I'm standing here is because Islam is a law about the progression of the human race and about what is natural and what is not. Islam doesn't necessarily support like the lifestyle of the LGBT community. However, they do support them as human beings, and that is something like it's something that I've struggled with because they have my 100% love and support. I take a bullet for anybody. I don't care what their sexual orientation is. My best friend, he's gay, and we've had these conversations.
But the thing about this is that, like, as a Muslim, you can commit sins, you can associate yourself with things that might be incorrect, that makes you sinful, but not necessarily taking you outside of the fold of Islam. So, for example, if you are a Muslim, like you claim to be a Muslim, but then you associate yourself and you follow the practices of a Christian, for example, or a Hindu, then you're not a Muslim anymore. You've left the fold of Islam.
But if you are a Muslim, and one of the things you struggle with is this topic, you are not outside the fold of Islam.
Yeah, like you could be like ignorantly a part of these kind of ideologies or groups, like an LGBTQ community. Yeah, it could be a struggle you face, and they could do it out of like a misunderstanding. Because there are many Muslims that believe that, well, I would say many modern day progressive Muslims that have the misunderstanding that homosexual acts or relationships are actually permitted in the Sharia, which is Islamic law, and that's not true. Again, it doesn't diminish them as human beings or bar them from heaven. It's sinful, and they should refrain from engaging in these kind of things because our religion says that it is forbidden. But merely being a part of these groups or maybe sinning in this fashion,
it doesn't mean you're not a Muslim.
Yeah,
and
you can be Muslim while committing this sin.
Yeah,
but it's a sin.
Yeah, it is difficult to understand, but we should try to be more understanding for sure.
Yeah.
And not make them less of a human.
Yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't humiliate them.
Don't
you shouldn't
dehumanize them.
Yeah, don't dehumanize them. They're human beings.
Because if they do that, then they'll end up leaving Islam. They'll feel resentment towards it. So
exactly. It'll paint Islam in an image that is not justified for Islam, and they will leave with something and their hearts against Islam, just based off someone's ignorance and kind of they are not understanding the struggle that they themselves are going through. Because everyone has sins. We all have our skeletons in our closet. To act like someone else, to act like you yourself are sinless and you're
superior in some way.
superior.
That's arrogance itself.
Yeah.
Before, and he's told me that, you know what, Husna, I love you for you. I love you for everything that we've been through together. I don't care what it is that you stand for, and that's, you know, it's really comforting to know that you don't have to support a lifestyle to support a human being, to love a human being.
See there, I completely agree with that. You don't have to support a lifestyle to support a human being. Just like, and I'll say this for example, we don't agree or subscribe to Christian belief, Jewish belief, Hindu belief, but we can live with these people in their societies.
We respect their
We can respect
religions.
them.
We're not allowed to disrespect them.
Yeah, we can't go out there disrespect their faith, and we cannot dehumanize them. Similarly, like this, and we believe that's all sinful. We believe that we're associating partners with God is sinful. So just like that, you also should try to maintain a good conduct with everyone, even people like this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Love people unconditionally.
I love what you said. Yeah, and that's why I'm here, because the prompt was, can you be LGBTQ and Muslim? And yes, you can be anything and Muslim. If we're going to get into the logistics of lifestyle practices in the core of scripture, yes, there are different lifestyles or things that are asked for in scripture, but there's nothing that says they are not welcome in the faith. They are not welcome in our houses of worship. They cannot pray. They cannot stand beside us. They don't fast. They are people.
It's very hard, I would say, to be a Muslim and, you know, part of the community.
I agree with you.
Beautiful statement.
What a question.
I swear I'm not trying to make this controversial, but I somewhat disagree because I'm first Afghan. Then I would say I'm American.
So I do identify as Syrian first. And so what is America? So for me, that identity, because I grew up not feeling like a minority. And I was always proud American. I didn't talk about my Syrian heritage. I wasn't familiar with it. And then the last decade, it was like, whoa, I kind of whitewashed my history to be the proud American, to fit in. And everyone was like, if you took off your scarf, you'd be just another white girl. It's just, there's a battle. Like, I'm proud American, but it's like, what does American mean right now?
Yeah.
With everything that's happening.
As a Muslim who just happens to be black in America, I've never not known this to be my country, because that's what this country was founded on.
That's my
Being able to be who you are, having the freedom to be that and not feel persecuted. And so, yeah, that's how I live my life. And I'm not going to let anybody force me or talk me into thinking differently.
Yeah, I would disagree. I do consider, obviously I identify first as a Muslim because that's the most important thing, but I'm American. I grew up in America my whole life.
Yeah.
American culture, American media, American everything. Even though we do disagree, America does some things wrong, the leadership does something wrong, they do bad stuff internationally.
Doesn't mean
I'm
you're not American.
still American. It might not be, America might not have like my full loyalty, or I might not agree with everything America does. I don't think anyone does believe America's perfect, but I'm still an American person.
Yeah, I believe maybe I'm looking at it too simply, but I mean, if you're born in America, like the United States, for example, then you're American. Like,
yeah, but some people, like, if you're
they try to
if you're a
disassociate.
Muslim,
Yeah,
because America does a lot of stuff wrong.
yeah,
But I'm still
yeah,
American.
of course. Yeah, but that doesn't mean
yeah.
So who wants that coffee and continue this
All right,
conversation?
yeah, let's go to Starbucks.
I love how you always bring up another side to it. It's great. It's great.
So yeah, interesting video. It's always good to see the viewpoints of different Muslims and have a healthy discourse. Nothing in this video was like too controversial. Everything was fine, I think.
yeah.
Interesting to watch.
It's like just addressing modern problems that Muslims are facing, I guess.
Yeah, and it's important to talk about because with modern problems, sometimes in Islam itself, there might not be a lot clear in it. Just
Yeah.
like,
Clarity. Yeah.
yeah, because with modern stuff, Islam is for all times, but modern stuff brings up new issues, and we have to take what is in the Quran and Hadith and do our best
To apply it to
today.
Without contradicting.
Yeah,
the
so
past.
obviously there'll be hard things to understand and issues we go through, especially for Western people if we are American. But it's always good to, reflect on it and try to talk it through so we don't, stay ignorant and make bad decisions.
Yeah, and I'll say this, living in this country, people have the luxury of pretty much doing whatever they want to do and subscribing to whatever lifestyle they want to subscribe to. But just because you may disagree with something, if you're a Muslim, right? If you disagree with something Islam holds as a law, you don't need to try to change the religion or the faith, because that will fail. It will never change. And many people try to implement whatever their lifestyles are into the faith, and it doesn't work. It doesn't match. And I would also say that morality, Islamically, and what is true doesn't change based off someone's feelings. So I think that's also important to keep in mind when it comes to these controversial topics. You can respect someone else as a human being, but your personal opinions don't change the core theology or the truth of morality itself, if you could say that, in an Islamic paradigm.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. If you want to see more reactions from Jubilee, maybe, leave it in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe. That really helps us out. And Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.